Hello. How's it going? All right. Well, welcome back. Um, if you clicked the link in on Twitter, you saw that I tried to get my dog Zoe to pose for a picture since we're going to be painting fur baby animal things, and she was not having it. So if you haven't seen that, when you're done here, you should go look at what the thumbnail for this class looks like. Because it looks like I'm just like holding my dog captive, which I guess I was. Okay, so what I was planning today was I want to teach you guys how to paint your own pets. Hi, Amy. So here's the thing. I taught it a couple times, the paint your own pet class at the paint studio I used to work at. It was very different because I could sit there and help the people who were taking the class. It was also very different because they submitted their photos to us, at least 24 hours prior, and we would sketch their animal on their canvas. I obviously cannot do that for you. So what I was thinking is I'm just going to show you some tips, tricks, like things that you maybe don't think of when painting an animal. Like I'm going to teach you how to do their nose vaguely. I'm going to teach you about how to do their eyes, how they're different from human eyes. What else? Different fur texture kind of things. And then I think it'll be up to you whether you want to give it a try, if you want to try to sketch out your dog, or cat or hamster or whatever you have. I've never painted a hamster. I have painted a guinea pig. I did do that. So let's get started. I'm reusing my Santa canvas, if you can, or my gnome that I showed how to do as Santa. So you can still see a little bit through that. But let's just get started and talk about some stuff. I need a Sharpie. Okay. Where shall we start? Let's talk about eyes. We'll do eyes. Here, I know what we'll do. We're going to split this. That's a crappy Sharpie. That's a better Sharpie. Okay. And then let's do 6 sections. Those are really even sections. So we're going to do eyes, nose. We can do a little like tongue or mouth. I'm writing these in mostly for me. You can't really see that on the screen, I would imagine. And then we'll do some like fur texture 1 and fur 2, and I'll leave this the square unreserved for anything that we might come up with later. If anybody has any specifics later that they want to ask how to do in the chat, they could do that. Or if I realize in teaching you this that I left something out that's kind of important, like maybe ears. Ears are hard because ears are different. All the dogs' ears are different. All the cat ears are different. But maybe we'll get to that. Okay, so let's talk briefly. We don't want to spend too much time on the drawing aspect, right? Because everybody's shapes are different. I'm just going to show you like the kind of fundamentals. So a lot of times if you've ever doodled an eye, like a human eye, you'll do like an almond shape, right? A lot of eyes, of human eyes, are mostly almond shaped. Now, here's the thing when it comes to eyes. And this is like I don't know if I learned this in an art class, or what. But your eyes are not almond shaped. Your eyes are spheres, right? Your eyeballs are spherical. So they're circles, they have 3 dimensions, etc. They're just tucked behind these lids. So whenever you're talking about, this kind of goes to helping you figure out how to draw or paint a human eye, but you have to think about it as if it's a full circle and then just like cover part of it like a curtain. So just kind of think about that as we're going. Now, animal eyes, usually less almond shape, more almost circular. I've definitely seen some that are at least look circular because of how much fur is covering the actual shape of the eyelid. But in general, I would do like a top kind of situation like that, and then a bottom situation like that, where it's much more round. And now again, their eyes are going to be different shapes depending on what side they're on. I'm not showing you 2. I want to show you one big one, but obviously you would, try to study. Also, if you're going to paint your animal, I should have said this, probably take a picture. Usually we say draw from life, which is also bogus advice. But your dog moves and decides that it doesn't want to sit there and gets up. I'm going to say dog just because that's what I have, but just insert your animal there. Also, some fur babies are no longer with us, so you got to paint from a picture. It's just so much easier. And now with the human eye, you think about how much white there is, and then you would like kind of throw that the color part of the eye. Is that the iris? I think that's the iris. Or is that that's the iris. So your iris takes up less space because you have a lot of whites of the eye. On animals, or at least dogs and cats, you very rarely see the whites of their eye. There's maybe a little sliver, and we'll get to that when we're painting. But for the most part, their irises take up most of their eye. So I'm just kind of giving myself, making a circle. Imagine if this was a circle, but now the lid is kind of covering up some of it. So that's where their whole iris is going to be. Now, their pupil is going to change depending on what kind of animal they are. Cats generally have that cat eye shape where it's much thinner, more like that kind of thing. So a little almond shape or a little football, a little kind of shape like that for a cat, whereas dogs are usually more like us and they're more circular. So we'll get to that in a minute. Noses. And now if you want to kind of put this into the perspective of an animal real quick, just like us, the bridge of an animal's nose usually creates the eye socket. That's just a general thing. So if you want to think about how that nose might be coming down, and they might have, some animals have an eyebrow situation. Not literally. Well, I guess some do literally. But if you just want to kind of put that into context for your mind, so when we talk about shading and stuff like that, you'll kind of have that there. Noses, all different shapes. I'm gonna just pick one, but your animal's nose can be a lot of different shapes. What I find is there's 2 really easier shapes to draw. So I guess I'll draw both just to make it easy. So one is where it's much more of a rectangle up top, and then it kind of goes down into a triangle there, kind of like a baseball, home plate, but maybe a little longer. So rectangle, and you could draw a full rectangle too. There's no harm in drawing a rectangle. Here's the thing, fundamentally, everything you draw, sketch, everything should be broken down into shapes. So if you look at your animals, and maybe that's what I'll do there, or I'll pull up another canvas and show you me drawing an imaginary animal. Everything is broken down into shapes. So if to draw your animal's nose, you have to draw a rectangle and then draw a triangle on the bottom. Cool, that gets you a nose. I've also noticed a lot of animals have more of like a heart-shaped nose, and it's very, very similar to this, but sometimes it's just easier to actually just draw a big squishy heart for their nose. So those are like the two main types of nose that I see a lot when I'm painting animals. Much more like rounded and heart-shaped, and then a little bit more squared off or like blocky noses like that. So we'll work on both of those maybe. And then let's do that. Let's just start there because I don't want to draw everything and then go back and paint it and you're like, wait, I was still drawing an eye. I didn't get to drawing the other thing. So we'll start with those guys. Sorry, I had smoked salmon for lunch and it was very, very salty and I am very, very thirsty. Okay, so let's get some paint pumped here. Obviously, you're going to be kind of in control of choosing your own colors. You're definitely going to need black no matter what color your animal is. Did I leave my white over there again? Yes, I did. You're definitely going to need white. I have to go get mine. Please excuse me. And then your other colors are just going to depend on like what your animal looks like. I would say most dogs I've seen have mostly brown eyes, and then there's a couple that have like really piercing blue eyes. And then cats, I would say, is mostly like a green. I can maybe I should show you both. I'll figure out how to do that. Okay, I'm almost out of my white. This is like a very much like a paint with me kind of thing. So if you have questions as we're going, whether they're related to this or not, you can just chat in the chat. Let's see. I need stuff to make brown. I'm just going to pump the colors that we usually use, which is just going to be our yellow, red, and blue. I just pumped way too much red. Okay. Okay, so here's how I like to, I'm going to go back to eyes. Now, I should put it out there that I generally paint the eyes last, the eyes and the nose last. So I know that we're starting there, but when it comes to painting your animal, I sketch and then I work from back to front, just like we do with all of our other paintings. So I'll do like the body, or usually I just do like the neck torso area because that's usually a lot of real estate that needs to get painted, but also fairly easy. It's just going to be that fur texture and shading. And then I'll work, if the ears are pretty far back, I'll work on like a base for the ears. And then I'll start to fill in the face. Then I'll do the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and then I'll do all the details all together. It's just to give you an idea of how I like the process that I follow. Listen to your podcast with Alana. Great time and great discussion. Thank you. Yes. Also, thank you for reminding me that I should probably, plug that. So if you didn't know, my friend Alana and I have started a podcast where we talk about art. It's called Art Hypothetically. I don't think we have 100 followers on YouTube yet, so I don't think we have a customized link, but our link is on our Twitter. Like it's pinned to our Twitter account, which is at Art Hypothetical. Because there's a character limit on Twitter and Art Hypothetically didn't fit. So yeah, if you want to find our podcast, you can go to our Twitter, and it's Art Hypothetical. And you can listen pretty much wherever podcasts are hosted. And then we're also on YouTube if you want to watch us talk. And that's where our subtitles would be too. So if you need that for accessibility, it's there. And we have one episode up, but we have another one coming. We're going to post every other Wednesday. And so we're talking all about like every aspect of art. It's kind of fun. I really like it. I like talking about art, obviously, because I'm sitting here talking about art. But yeah, thanks, Amy. Okay, I'm going to make a brown real quick. So if you have never watched me paint, you can make a brown with red and just a little bit of red, a lot of yellow, a little bit of black, and a little bit of white. And then you just kind of have to like play around with the ratio of the colors until you get to something you like. Or if you have brown paint, you can just use brown paint. Okay, so this is what I do. I will paint in the irises here. And I won't care so much about being messy because I'm just going to fill the rest in with black. So I just paint in the irises. It's one solid color because I know I'm going to go back in and add some detail. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to clean my brush, grab some black. I'm going to go in now. This is, again, I'm doing the rounded pupil for the doggos. And I honestly don't, I don't hate it when I paint the pupil over the iris when the iris is still wet because I don't mind having like not a super clean line. I find that like animals, and I don't know if there's science behind this or if it's just from me painting it so much from pictures that are not super clear, but I feel like they don't have the most defined line between their pupil and their iris, so I don't mind it being a little fuzzy. That's just me. I don't mind. And the ratio is different sometimes than ours, right? Like how much. I mean, I guess it depends on how dilated their pupils are, but see how I just kind of like blurred that out, and I might go back in. I just feel like in general, dogs' eyes are so much darker. So I went back in, I grabbed some brown, and I just really softened that. I just like how that looks. Just gonna be honest. I'm gonna go over here actually and do a cat eye so that you can see it, and I'll do the opposing eye, so it looks like we've got like a half cat, half dog. Okay. So now for the cat eye, like I said, most cats' eyes, I feel like are some kind of greeny or like a greeny brown, like a hazel maybe. But I'm just gonna do it green. So I'm gonna grab a bunch of yellow, a little bit of blue. It's definitely more of a yellowy green when I've encountered it. Like a celery green. And now you keep in mind that you just really want like a base color because we're gonna add detail here as always. So if you're looking at this and you're like, I've never seen a cat whose eyes are so electric green, that's fine. We're gonna add the shade and the shadow and the highlight and all of that. So we're just getting that here. This is gonna look really creepy. And then I'm washing my brush. I'm gonna grab some black. And get my cat eye in here. Now the thing that you need to make sure you're aware of when you're looking at your photo is which direction your animal's eyes are looking. So the way that I'm painting these is kind of giving the appearance that they're looking fairly straight, if not like a little up, because I'm showing that you can see more of the bottom of their iris, which may not always be the case. They may have like a little bit of both covered up, but that's the way I've chosen to paint it. Okay, so we're gonna let that sit for a little bit, and then we're going to talk about noses. Now, here's the thing. Noses come in all sorts of different colors. They can be brown, they can be black, they can be pink. But important thing, you can look at your dog's nose and figure out what color it is. However, if you look at your animal's nose and you think it's black, you are wrong. When it comes to painting, you cannot paint your nose black, because then what color would the dog's or cat's nostrils be? Right? If the nostrils are going to be the darkest thing on there, then their nose can't be black. You wouldn't be able to tell it apart from the nostrils. Yeah? So I'm going to do a black nose and a pink nose. So for my black nose, it's actually gray. And it could still be a really dark gray, but you definitely want to make sure it's visibly gray so that when you do the nostrils, you can actually see them. Let's see. I think that looks like a good dark shade of gray. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to paint. And now as I'm doing this, I'm going to round it out a little bit because most noses are not, they don't have 90-degree angles, right? So I'm just going to round out these edges a drop. And now the tops of the nose, again, may not be perfectly straight. It might be a little rounded. It might also, when we get up to like how to incorporate these things into the fur, it might also have like a softened furry kind of texture. So I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, I'm just kind of softening, rounding, etc. here. Okay, that's good. That's a good nosy shape. A little nosy, a little boop. Oh, you gotta do the boop, by the way. And then for a pink nose, it's not really pink. I mean, it is. But generally, if you're making pink, you're mixing white with a little bit of red and you're making pink. But that's like very Barbie pink. So we're going to want to tone it down, maybe with a little bit of yellow. That'll kind of make it a peachier color. And then maybe just a little bit of black. Maybe a little bit of blue instead. Really just depends on what you've got going on. I just added a little bit of black and a little bit of yellow. And now I've got this like more fleshy pink as opposed to like a Barbie pink or a Pepto-Bismol pink. So again, I'm kind of gonna show you like how you do the detail parts, and then you're gonna, if you do decide to paint your animal, you're going to want to make sure that you're like painting a base color first. I always paint my base colors first. You can color block. If you squint at a picture, you could be like, okay, this part's white, this part's black, this part's gray, and just get a base color. And then you can throw in your eyes and nose base color, and then we'll do all the detail. Now, as always, what I'm saying is just what works for me. So if you decide to give this a shot and you take it on and you do it in a different order and you're like, well, this worked just fine, I didn't have any problems and I love what it looks like, then, or alternatively, if you do it my way and you're like, this made no sense, why do you do it this way? It's just the way my brain works. Okay. Let's talk about fur. Couple things to remember and think about. I'm going to do, for fur texture number 1, I'm going to do a smooth dog, like not a smooth dog, a short haired dog or cat or whatever. And then I'm going to do like a fluffier long haired one here. I'm also going to do, for this one, I'm going to do a black animal, and so I'm going to do a white animal. Here's why. This is the biggest obstacle when people are painting their animals. They're like, my dog is all white. No, it is not. First of all, it's just in real life not. But then also when it comes to painting, like you have to, if you have a white animal, you have to add some pinks, some browns, a little black here for shadow, grays. You got to add some. I've seen people use lilac a lot, like a really pale purple in a white dog looks beautiful. And then if you have a black dog, blue. Honestly, like I'm going to show you, blue for the highlights is like beautiful. But you could obviously use all different shades of gray. You could throw some brown in there. You can do almost anything. Purple, like a darker purple, just like the blue would probably look really nice. Things you want to avoid unless you're doing like a pop art or like a fun color scheme and you're not doing a true to color picture. I try to avoid like pure reds. Kind of usually looks like blood. What else do I avoid? A ton of like pure yellow. If your dog is like a golden color, you could use yellow, but they are not a yellow dog. They're more tan, like white, pale browns, things like that, than yellow. Okay, so fur texture number 1, it's a white dog, right? So what I'm going to start with is a base of gray. And you always want to start darker than you ever think you'll want. Because if it's a light dog, again, insert animal here, but if it's a light animal, and you start out with a light color, it's going to be so hard to do those highlights and to make those areas pop and look brighter when you need them to. So start darker, even if your animal is white. Okay, so this one is going to be the, like the short-haired, right? Short-haired white dog. So whenever I'm color blocking, I want to get like, it doesn't have to be a perfectly mixed flat color, but I just like to get a flat area of color down, like a wash of color, I should say. And then kind of build on it as I go. Now, for black dog, you are actually going to be able to start with black. Now, when I say start with black, I don't want you to sketch out a shape of your dog and then paint the whole thing black, because you won't be able to see like where the head becomes the neck, where the little like shadows are maybe for the shoulder area. So you do still have to squint, and you do still have to kind of say, okay, this is where, I'm going to make it a little lighter first, and then I can always add shadow back in. So just kind of think about that. Think about being able to tell the difference between shapes. Even if you're looking at it and you're like, well, these are both black, that I'm going to need you to go in and make a fake line in a lighter gray or whatever color, just while you're color blocking so that you could still see the difference. It may not end up really looking like that once you're done, but you need to be able to see where one area transitions to the other. And I'll show you a little bit like when I do the nose. I'll show you what I mean there. But for just the fur texture aspect, I'm going to just paint this black. So all of that to say, do as I say, not as I do. Okay, that's should be good enough. Okay, just gonna let that dry here. We're just jumping around. You can always pause this, go back, etc. Whatever, whatever you need at the time. I'm going to talk a little bit about tongues and mouths and stuff. Now, obviously, each mouth that you're going to draw is going to look a little different. If your animal's really hairy and they've got their tongue sticking out, you may not be able to see much of their mouth. Or sometimes if you have a really short-haired dog, you could see like their whole jaw and their gum line and some teeth. So I'm going to try to show a little bit of all of that. So let's say the top of their mouth is here, and we've got a little tongue action, and maybe we can see some of their jaw, and they've got like some teethies happening here. Okay, beautiful sketch, Ileana, gorgeous. So what I like to do when I'm painting a mouth is, first of all, I'm going to assume, let's make this dog like a furry brown dog, since we've got white and black covered there. Okay, so let's say this is their fur. And actually, it would probably go in the other direction. There would probably be a swoop like this, and a swoop like this, yeah. Because their mouth usually comes down like that, so like curtains. So a little bit of a swoop there and a swoop there. Okay. And to give you a little bit of perspective here, this is like their nose. Up top there, and then it kind of goes down. Okay. So, and the only reason I'm going fast with the like external stuff that I'm doing right now is because if you're doing this as just an exercise, like to practice for when you're ready to do your own dog, then I want you to just kind of go quickly and like play, because you're not trying to make it look like your animal. You're just trying to make it look like an animal. So just pick a color and throw it in there. And sometimes that like being real, that's too much blue in there. Being really quick and rough and loose with it is so much easier than actually like jumping in and first doing it with first like trying to paint an animal as your animal because you're in love with your baby. It's your baby, you know? And so you're like mentally invested in it, but then um you struggle, right? Because you're like, well, this doesn't look like my baby. And it will, just maybe not in the beginning, you know? Okay, so I'm just kind of getting baby's like jawline in there. Right? And then see, this is one of those times where I'm like showing you how to build a face before we do it. I'm doing it in a weird order, but it's fine. This is kind of how my brain is working these days. Nothing is computing in order. Okay, I made this nose way too light. Let me just build that nose up a little bit. Okay, so nose, mouth is open. This is the tongue. We've got some teeth. And now I would imagine that if their mouth is open, you would still see the rest of their neck, chest area, fur. So we got to like differentiate this from this so that you could tell that it's a little set further back. So I'm just going to take some black and maybe a little bit of blue too. I really like using like less conventional colors for shadow these days. Like I just made this kind of purpley and I really kind of dig it. So I'm going to put the darkest kind of shadow situation there. And here's why I don't want it to be black, because animals' mouths are going to have black in them, right? Like their gum line has black. We want to be able to use the black for shadow inside there where it's not like shadow on fur. So I'm just taking this darker purpley brown that I just made, adding it there, and then I'm going to grab some of the lighter color and blend it in. Right? Like I grab some of this color. And admittedly, this is a really weird shade of brown. Like, but it's also just our base color. Like this is, we're just playing right now, and this is just our base color. So I'm just softening the edge of that shadow and blending as I go here. And I'll show you when we do. After we go over some of our fur textures, I'll show you how to kind of transform that more. But that's kind of cute, right? Okay, let's talk more details, right? In the eye. So for brown eyes, I like for there to be a little bit of like golden in them. So I'm going to take some yellow. Let's see what happens. I'm going to take some yellow. My yellow is real sheer. And I'm just, my brush is clean. It just has yellow on it. And I'm just kind of wiping most of it off. And I'm going to go into the like real browner parts of the eye and just, okay, well, you can hardly see that at all. I'm going to take a tiny bit of white with that. That might be too much. Let's see. I might need to add a little bit of red to golden it up. Okay, I like that. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Just so you can see, I added just a little bit of like that glow right on top there. And then here's the next really important thing. So we added a little glow. When it comes to the whites, first of all, even on humans, the whites are never pure white. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the brown that I used here and mix it into some white just to like dull it down a little bit. And I'm going to add that to the outside here, just in a stripe. So I'm just streaking that in here. And then I'm going to go into the pure white. This is like literally the last thing I do on every animal. I know I should probably be like, we'll do this last and actually show you last, but you need to put the highlight in the eye. See how I have like, well, I have my ring light, so mine highlight is a circle, but that's what gives everything that has an eye a soul. So that's why if you're painting something and you start with like a fully black eye, it's going to look like a demon. But then as soon as you put a little dot of white in it, you're like, oh, it has a soul. So where your eye light highlight catch, it's a catch light, but where the catch light is going to depend on where the light in your picture is. And you're going to want to make sure that the two eyes are kind of like in the same place. So if I'm looking this way, the catch light is in the same kind of area of both eyes. I'm not going to put one on the far outside and one on the other far outside because that doesn't make sense. Anyway, so I'm going to do like a little boop right there, but also maybe it's going to depend on the size of your eye. This is a really big eye, so I'm going to do a bigger boop. But maybe there's a second littler boop. Maybe there's a whole ass glare and you need to do like a swoop. I love swoops. The swoop highlights, excellent. I'm going to do the same thing with the cat eye because I feel like there is also a lot of like yellow in cat eyes. So this time I'm going to just take some yellow and white and I'm going to just add some dimension there. Ooh, I like that. Okay. You can also add some depth with a lighter eye. So you can go into your green and add a little bit more blue. I like to do that around the edges, like the outer edge. So I keep it lighter towards the pupil, and then I'll add some darker green or a little bit of blue on the outside. And you can streak it. You can like pull it through. There's like irises have texture, so you can add that. So you see how I like kind of streak the darker into the lighter. You can see my little highlights and catch lights and swoops better here too. And now the cats need catch lights too. So I'm gonna go into my white and I'm gonna give my cat. So this, what I just did, is what you don't want to do. I mean, we're obviously doing two different eyes here, but I put it on the outside and I put it on the outside. So it looks like the lights are coming from two different directions, which I guess could happen, but in general, they'll come from the same direction. Don't be afraid also, it doesn't have to just be in the pupil. Don't be afraid to add a highlight that kind of swoops across. That's a thing that can happen. You're talking about an eye that's just shiny and it's going to catch light wherever it catches light. So don't think that it has to be, just one dot or just one thing in just one area. Now, cats do have a little bit more of like an almondine kind of eye. So I'm going to do more of like the triangle of white in the outer corners here. Whereas this was just like a stripe. And when I paint the fur around it, you'll see what I mean. But I'm going to do more of that triangle-y vibe here. Okay. Well, this class is going fast. Sorry, guys. This might have to be a two-parter. We'll see. Nose. Very important, easy steps for nosies. You are going to go in with your black, and you're going to give yourself nostrils. Now, a lot of like dog nostrils, cat nostrils, all different shapes. But I find for the most part, they kind of swoop in from the side here and then fill in. So I'm going to fill them in here. So they swoop in and they're kind of like they always remind me of little whales. Like they are shaped like little whales. Like little cartoon baby whales. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. So nostrils. Let's do a different shape nostril here. We'll just do more of like a squishy oval guy. And a squishy oval guy. Other things to think about with nosies. There's usually like a little line down the middle of their nose that kind of gives it separation. I don't usually go all the way down. I'll start over here in between the nostrils and I'll just bring it down. Same here. And it might have a little bit of a curve to it depending on which direction your like dog's or cat's face is. So it probably won't go straight down. It'll probably have a little bit of a curve. And that's going to also help with the like dimensionality of it. The whales that used to be on the preppy Oxford shirts. Yes, those. I was actually thinking of the whale cake from the I don't know if everybody has Carvel, but from the Carvel ice cream cake commercials. But yes, those preppy Oxford shirt lapel things. Yes. Can you guys hear Zoe? She must hear a neighborhood friend barking. Okay, what's next with nosies? Nosies have highlights too, and texture, right? So a lot of noses have texture, and I accomplish both at the same time. So I will go into my gray, and I will add some white and make a much lighter gray. And then for the top of the nose, because that's what's going to catch the highlight, just like my nose, that's where my highlight is. So that's where you're going to put the highlight on the nose here. So I just like to dot. This is what these little dot stipplies are what gives the nose the texture that animal noses have. And I usually will bring a little bit of it down, like maybe halfway. And if you go a little too crazy, you can always go back in with some gray. Like maybe I might have gone a little too crazy. I also will generally highlight a little bit of the nostril just to help it stand out a little bit. And maybe a little up there too. So if I went a little crazy, I'm gonna grab some gray. And tone these little dots down a little bit. And there's like depth too, right? So if your highlight is up top, then the bottom of your nose would be in more shadow. So you can get a darker gray and kind of just add some depth here. Same thing with our pink nose. I'm going to take some red and some black, a little bit white, just to make it creamier. and add some shadow down here. And I'm going to go into my white. Mix just a little bit of pink in there so that it's not so intense. And I'm just going to add some little dabby doos of texture. And highlight my nostrils. Okay. Fur. Easy conversation. So it goes back to, well, it's not easy. It's an easy thing to start talking about. And then you gotta have to play with it. So the flatter, short-haired animals, all animals, it's gonna be layers, right? Actually, I'm taking back what I said. This is gonna be the long hair, this is gonna be the flat one. Sorry. So we're gonna do our flat with our black here. So we want to layer, right? So we're going to add some gray in there, which we can then blend back in with some black. We just want some differentiation. So let's say that this is where the jaw meets the rest of the animal. Right, we just want some differentiation there. And then maybe here, I should have kept some of this not animal colored. Okay, so let's say that this is now the shoulder. And that's where the the highlight, the light is catching your, I'm going to say this is a cat. This is a short-haired black cat, right? So this is their jaw. This is kind of their back shoulder area. And we really want that to stand out. I'm going to take some blue and just a little bit of white just to make this a tiny bit creamier. And I'm just going to add some blue in there. You can't see that at all. I can see it here, but actually, you know what? If you can't see it there, that means that when it dries, you won't be able to see it. So I'm actually going to grab some more white. And when it's a short-haired animal, you're really just playing with skin folds and how the light reflects. So I like really short little bursts. So I threw some blue in there. And here's the thing. It's all about going back and forth and playing around. So if that's the back, this is the jaw. Then this is a little shoulder area. So I'm going to kind of carve that out. Right? But that's kind of standing out too much. So maybe we'll go back in and we'll soften it and round it out. And we'll get that blue in there. Shorter haired animals, it's more about just adding different colors to kind of break up the monotony of having a one. This is assuming you have a one colored animal, but that very rarely happens. So yeah, I just kind of go back and forth. If you use the white with the blue and the black, it'll create this really cool denim-y color. And I just like to blend and play and soften. And then you can take some more black if you need to create a nice crisp line again. You can go back in and do that. can add some blue. It's just about like playing. Yeah, it's gonna look, that little area looks messy because there's no context, and it's gonna look messy, and that's fine. For the longer haired furry friends, I'm gonna use a bigger brush. Where's this guy? If this is a white animal, we want some pink in there, yeah? So I'm gonna make some pink. I'm gonna tone it down with some gray and some red. I'm sorry, some gray and some yellow. Okay, so maybe, and with the longer hair friends, we want that hair texture, right? So we're gonna do some more of that like purposeful flicking of our brush. And then we said some lavender, right? I think I wanna try that. So make like a pale purpley color. And we can go in with that too. The whole point is to create the layers and to create depth. So you're going to want to make sure that you have some darker areas. And so maybe I'll do like a little bit of a dark purple. You couldn't do like, and so now I made a like this peachy pink, but I made it a little bit more light and more tan. So I'm gonna go in and quickly brush in some lighter shades of that. And you want to make sure that you're going in all sorts of different directions, right? Because animal hair doesn't behave the way we might want it to. And then once you've done like your mid-tones, a little bit of dark area where you need it, added like a little bit of the highlight, then the very last layer, you can go in with a little bit of off-white. You very rarely you want so little pure white in a pet portrait or in anything, honestly, because you want to reserve that for things like the light catch, and you want to reserve that for some really shiny areas, maybe in the mouth, where it's really reflecting light. So you just want to kind of ever so slightly tint the white something, if it's a warm, if it's a cool, but then you want to kind of really just swoop in that lighter color. Again, it's not going to play by the rules. It's going to go all sorts of different directions. And that's going to be like how you kind of play around. Now we're at the hour, so obviously I can talk about painting animals forever. Maybe we want a part 2 of this. I don't know, where I show you more of how it incorporates. I can show you more of the tongue. Maybe part 2 is where I will draw an actual animal and I can show you like how everything comes together. Do you guys you guys want that? There's only 5 of you watching, so I will ask Twitter too. But let me know either in the chat right now or on Twitter, or in the comments on the YouTube. I honestly don't look at the comments on the YouTube, so if you guys have been talking there, I don't know about it. I should probably go look and check. But yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this or if this was more just like I'm gonna listen to you, but I'm not actually gonna do what you say because I'm not there. Um, okay, I've got a yes, so that's good. So yeah, I will ask and I will see if maybe we want to do that next week. Or is next week Easter? I don't know when Easter is. Right now it's Passover, that's all I know. Oh, hi Mary. I hope Mary was a good doggo. I like the idea of pet part 2 and I don't have a pet. Well, you can paint somebody else's pet. Maybe find a friend or a loved one who has an animal that you enjoy and maybe you can paint them. That's actually I like this idea of like, let's take some time and you can find an animal that you actually want to paint and take the time to kind of give them a little sketch. Or maybe I'll kind of give you some tips and tricks. Honestly, I do a really bad job of sketching animals. I just kind of, if you talk to my friend Haley, like I really don't draw them very fully at all. I just kind of like throw a shape in there and then I like develop it with paint. I know a lot of people who can actually draw. I'm not a drawing human. That will draw much more detail and then actually be able to follow that detail. But I just like shapes and then I paint them and I'm like, that doesn't work. And I fix it with paint. So, okay, yes, next week is Easter. So maybe we will come back to this in 2 weeks. That'll kind of give you time to like play around with what we've done. And then we can kind of pull it all together on a real animal. It will still be different because we'll all be painting different animals. But yeah. I had a good time. I like painting animals. Some people might think this is like a dumb thing for me to do since I mostly take commissions for painting people's pets and now I'm teaching you how to do it yourself. But that's okay. It's no big deal. Thank you guys for joining me and I will talk to you later and see you maybe in 2 weeks. Love you, bye!